April 1945. Camp Clinton, Mississippi. The air hangs heavy with humidity, a stark contrast to the biting frost of the Ardennes where the capture took place. The war in Europe is a collapsing lung, wheezing its final breaths. But here in the American South, the world feels alien, vibrant, and terrifyingly calm. Inside the barbed wire perimeter, the heat rises from the asphalt like a phantom. There is no sound of artillery, only the drone of cicadas and the distant hum of a truck engine. Hans Weber, 19 years old, sits on the edge of a wooden bunk. He's a boy from Hamburg, conscripted into the Wehrmacht. When the desperation of the Reich demanded children to hold the line, his uniform is stained, stripped of insignia, a gray rag hanging off a frame made of ribs and anxiety. He stares at his boots. In his mind, he is still an enemy combatant, a monster as described by the Allied leaflets, and he expects the treatment reserved for monsters. For weeks, the propaganda machine in Germany had fed Hans and his comrades a diet of fear. They were told that American captivity meant starvation, torture, and a slow death in assault mines. Hans believes this. He grips his knees, his knuckles white. Every time the door to the barracks opens, his heart hammers against his ribs like a trapped bird. He waits for the guards to come with rifles and malice. He waits for the end. Standing by the door is Private Thomas Miller, 22, a farm boy from Topeka, Kansas. He chews on a toothpick, his rifle slung casually over a shoulder that seems too broad for his uniform. To Hans, Miller is the giant, the conqueror, the face of the nemesis. Miller looks at the prisoners, not with hatred, but with a strange, detached curiosity. He does not see the Huns or the master race. He sees a group of scared kids who look like they haven't eaten a hot meal in a year. The conflict in the room is silent, but deafening. Hans watches Miller's hands. He expects a fist. He expects the butt of a rifle. The silence stretches, tight as a piano wire. Hans remembers the ruins of Hamburg, the firestorms, the screaming. He projects that violence onto the American standing before him. He closes his eyes, bracing for the impact of retribution. Miller pushes off the door frame. He walks toward the bunk. The other prisoners scramble back, pressing themselves against the wooden walls, eyes wide with panic. Hans freezes. He cannot move. He is paralyzed by the certainty of his own execution. Miller stops in front of him. The American looms large, blocking out the harsh Mississippi sunlight streaming through the window. "Let's go," Miller says. The command is simple, but to Hans, it sounds like a death sentence. He stands up, his legs trembling. He follows the American out of the barracks, into the blinding afternoon glare. They walk across the dusty compound. Hans looks around for the wall where they will line him up. He looks for the pit. Instead, they stop at a low building with a screen door that slams shut with a wooden clap. The sign above says canteen. The smell hits Hans first. It is not the smell of cordite or rotting mud. It is sweet. It smells of tobacco, sugar, and something sharp and sterile. Miller holds the door open. Hans steps inside, blinking in the dim light. Inside, there are no interrogation chairs. There is a counter. Behind it, shelves are stacked with items Hans has not seen in years, or perhaps ever. Chocolate bars wrapped in shiny foil, packs of cigarettes with bright logos, and a large, humming metal box. Miller points to a stool. "Sit," he says. Hans sits. He's too confused to disobey. Miller walks to the metal box. He reaches in and pulls out a glass bottle, distinctively curved, cold condensation already weeping down its sides. He pops the cap off on the side of the counter. The hiss of escaping gas is sharp in the quiet room. He slides the bottle across the wood. It stops inches from Hans's hand. It is dark liquid. Black water. "Drink," Miller says. Hans stares at the bottle. He thinks it is poison. It must be a sweet poison to end it quickly. He looks at Miller, then at the bottle. He lifts it with a shaking hand. The glass is shockingly cold against his calloused, dirt-stained fingers. He brings it to his lips. The smell of caramel and vanilla rises. He takes a sip. The carbonation explodes on his tongue, 1,000 tiny needles of sweetness. The taste is complex, sugary, and aggressively refreshing. It is Coca-Cola. It is the taste of a world that is not burning. Hans gasps, the bubbles rushing up his nose. He takes another gulp, larger this time. The sugar hits his blood like a drug. Miller is not done. He turns back to the counter and grabs a small paper cup. He opens a freezer chest, and a cloud of white vapor rolls out. He scoops something creamy and white into the cup. He places a wooden spoon in it and slides this across the counter as well. Ice cream. Vanilla ice cream. In the middle of a war. In the middle of a prison. Hans looks at the white mound. In Germany, there is no milk. There is no sugar. People are boiling leather for soup. Here, the enemy offers a frozen confection that melts into a puddle of luxury. He takes a spoonful. The cold hurts his teeth. A sharp, shocking ache that travels to his skull. The texture is smooth, coating his mouth in rich, impossible creaminess. The sensory overload is absolute. The cold cooked the sweet ice cream. The heat of the Mississippi afternoon outside. It breaks something inside Hans. The rigid structure of his fear collapses. The propaganda dissolves in the face of this undeniable, physical reality. You do not give ice cream to a man you intend to kill. You do not waste sugar on a monster. Miller leans against the counter, crossing his arms. He watches Hans devour the ice cream. There is no malice in his eyes, only a weary kind of satisfaction. Good, Miller asks. The word hangs in the air. It is not an interrogation. It is a human question. Hans looks up. His mouth is sticky with sugar. He tries to answer, but his throat constricts. He looks at the American soldier, this gangster from the posters. He sees a young man, barely older than himself, with sunburn on his nose and grease under his fingernails. Why? Hans whispers, his voice cracking. We are, ... enemies. Miller shrugs, a gesture so casual it feels monumental. War's outside that fence? Get in here. It's just Tuesday. Besides, ice cream melts if you don't eat it. The tears come then. They do not fall because Hans is sad. They do not fall because he is defeated. He starts crying, his shoulders shaking violently. Great heaving sobs that rack his thin body. He is crying not from sadness, but from kindness. The sheer, unexpected weight of mercy crushes his defenses. He weeps for the years lost. He weeps for the lies he believed. He weeps because the taste of vanilla has reminded him that he is still a human being, that he has a tongue and a stomach and a soul, and that he is alive. Miller does not mock him. He turns Hawaii, giving the boy privacy, pretending to arrange the cigarette packs on the shelf. The narrative shifts. The years dissolve like the ice cream in that paper cup. It is 50 years later, 1995. The location is a comfortable suburban garden in Hamburg. The city is rebuilt, vibrant, the scars of the firestorms long healed under concrete and glass. Hans Weber is now his hair is white, his face mapped with the lines of a long, industrious life. He sits at a patio table. In front of him is a glass of Coca-Cola, the ice cubes clinking softly as he lifts it. He is surrounded by grandchildren who run through the grass, their laughter ringing in the cool autumn air. He holds the glass up to the sunlight. The amber liquid glows. He is transported back to that humid canteen in Mississippi. He remembers the smell of tobacco and the hum of the freezer. He remembers the face of Thomas Miller from Topeka, Kansas. He never saw Miller again after the repatriation, but the man's face is etched into his memory deeper than any general or politician. That moment in the camp defined the rest of Hansi's life. It taught him that the line between friend and foe is drawn in ink, but erased by simple acts of grace. He realizes that the greatest weapon the Americans possessed was not the atomic bomb or the tank, but the overwhelming abundance of their humanity, packaged in a glass bottle. He takes a sip. The taste is the same. It is the taste of survival. It is the taste of a Tuesday in Mississippi when he didn't die. He smiles, a soft, private smile that his grandchildren do not understand. History is often written in the blood of battles and the ink of treaties. We obsess over the strategies of generals and the movement of armies. But the true history of our species is found in the quiet, unauthorized moments between the loud noises. It is found in the unexpected sweetness offered by a conqueror to a captive. It is the realization that when the uniforms are stripped away and the ideology is melted down, we are all just fragile creatures desperate for a taste of something that isn't ash. The ice cream did not end the war. The Coca-Cola did not sign the surrender. But in that canteen, for one terrified boy, they did something far more important. They turned an enemy back into a man. And sometimes, that is the only victory that matters.